Hi guys, this is Nadia Hilker. I'm playing Magna on The Walking Dead, and you guys are listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. I hope you guys enjoy this podcast, and I'm sending you all my love. Bye!
Hello, my name is Cassie McClincy. I play Lydia on The Walking Dead, and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through. Yeah!
Hey there guys, I'm Callan McAuliffe and you're listening to The Walking Dead Talk Through on Talk Through Media.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Hey survivors, welcome to episode 112 of The Walking Dead Talk Through. I'm Kyle.
And I'm Mark.
And unfortunately Brian's not going to join us here through the whole episode, but he is going to be able to join us towards the end and give us some of his feedback and some of his comments. And so with that, let's continue. We didn't have any feedback that I found from the last episode from you guys, so we will just go into this week's episode. And that's The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 13, What We Become. It was written by Vivian Say and directed by Sharat Raju. The description was Michonne takes Virgil back to his mysterious island to reunite with his family. In exchange, Virgil promises weapons that could change the tide of the Whisperer War. Wahaha. Alrighty, well, let's go into our ratings. Mark, what did you rate this episode?
Well, I gave this one 8.5 out of 10. Somewhat similar ending to Rick's departure.
And I gave it 9 lying scumbag dope pusher Virgils out of 10. And Brian, he did leave his rating, and he gave it an 8.5 bad shroom trips. All right, well, that was our rating, so let's get into our listeners' ratings. All right, Mark, you want to go with the first one?
Yeah, Steve from Oklahoma City gave it 8 out of 10 what ifs and what could have been.
Dieta from Detroit gave it a 9 out of 10. Michonne's trippy, dreamy hallucination last episode. Farewell. Sad face.
Glennis from Toronto gives it 9.8 out of 10 cowboy boots.
And LT from NC gave it 7.5 out of 10 drug-induced flashbacks. He goes on and says, man, after last week's this episode was a little weak in my opinion, and it was just not quite as satisfying for a send-off of Michonne.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, kind of see that in some other comments that we'll get to. And then we have Jason from San Jose. I don't know if he's left feedback other episodes, but he left us one for this one, and I kind of like this. He's an 8.5 out of 10 member berry hallucinations. And that's from the South Park episode. He put a GIF there with the member berries, if you remember that one. And he's like, remember when Rick, Carl, Glenn, Abraham, and other memorable characters were on the show? I remember. It's horrible. Oh, sorry, horrible. Like, try it that. All right. Well, that was the last of our listeners' rating. So let's go on to Awesome Sauce. All right, our first listener's Awesome Sauce comes from Dieta from Detroit. She gives reliving the past showing that what if Michonne was on the other side story. We got to see a lot of familiar faces like Rick and Carl. Oh, happy days. Smiley face, smiley face. Yep.
Yeah, definitely. Steve from Oklahoma City says, I did love seeing the sideways flash of what Michonne thinks would have happened if she did not save Andrea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Glenn is from Toronto. She goes on and says, Michonne's discovery of Rick's cowboy boots and cell phone etching of Michonne and Judith, or what? As a tribute to what Ruthie would say. Brian has a good clip of that soundbite. Yes, do.
What?
Was that etching done by and Jadis, and it was a recent resemblance of Judith, not of when she was a toddler when Rick disappeared in The Walking Dead Season 9, Episode 5. That's true.
Well, it's hard to say. They gave her a little bit of long hair, and I question that myself. But I don't think... I'll get into it later on with my other notes. LT from NC says, seeing Michonne swing that sword possibly as a swan song. Seeing Michonne with her pets again. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Those were different pets too, by the way. They had different actors, but they kept the same molds. The whole evil Michonne flashback sequence, it was the whole notion of one decision makes all the difference in how someone turns out, especially in the zombie apocalypse. Having Talking Dead back, I enjoy the episodes more when I get some afterthoughts from Hardwick. And I do agree, we all missed it. I don't know why they didn't jump on that right away.
Right. Yeah, I know. Same. Because it just, it's like they've had that ability. And obviously, I guess if you didn't really think about it, but it's basically everybody's using Zoom now.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, that was all of our listeners' awesome sauce. So let's go into ours. Mark?
The first one would be, I liked what we got to see with Michonne leave with the new people and help them. At the very end, she, pretty much like at the very beginning, she is making a decision between helping Andrea and not Andrea back then in the day and during her hallucinations. But in this one, in this instance, she does the right thing as always. And she continues on her journey to find Rick with these people, as well as help them. And that was pretty cool. And I also liked the hallucinations, but it just reminded me of when Rick had his when Andrew Lincoln left off, left the show and stuff. But I think it could have been done or written differently. They didn't have to go that hallucination route. There was a few things that I was not too happy with, and I'm sure other listeners will put that in their what and weak sauce. So I'll agree with them and elaborate.
Yeah, I like that was my awesome sauce. It was the flashbacks, just being able to, even though they were, showing basically Michonne being kind of on the opposite side and just like, I guess what ifs, her decisions were different. But it's like with the flashbacks, especially the one at the beginning, it's like, I miss Andrea. It's like, it's been how long now, since it was season 3 or 4 that she died. But, and so it's just seeing her again, was kind of, I don't know. I loved it. I was just like, oh, there's Andrea. I kind of wish she was still on the show. But then just listening, that's part of my sad sauce was what then happens to her. But yeah, it was crazy. And then the new people, because I like new people. I like that we did get to meet some new people. And it was kind of interesting because I don't think they ever gave their names, but in the captions, like they were given names, and it's like Celeste, Lucy, and Jeremiah, I believe. So it's like, I don't know if we'll ever get to see them again because, they never actually did tell Michonne, their names. So I'm feeling like they have some importance if they would do that. Then so maybe in the movie or, somewhere down the line, we might get to see them again. So I don't know. I thought it was awesome that we get new people, but then they also had actual names.
Yeah, I found out that apparently the guy who plays Jeremiah seems to be like a YouTuber and a pretty funny one at that. So I'm curious as when they do bring him into whatever they're going to do with, whatever Denai Guerrera can actually continues to do with either the movie. I'm assuming they're going to bring them into the movie. Well, I just hope they don't just like off these people and say, oh yeah, we lost them. On the travel here. Yeah. But apparently there was question online about what he would do or how he would be because he was more of a comedic YouTuber. So I was just curious.
Like what his role. Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing too. Like you said, it's like, I don't know. Did they, they weren't with Michonne when she basically went on her trek with her pets. So I didn't know if because I did remember in my notes that she, like, you could hear them saying, "Hey, we're coming up to the coast." So it's like almost like they dropped her off. And then that's when she ran into the 2 other new people, which did not have names. That then, we see at the end what's going on. So, I mean, obviously, I think we will see them again, just where down the line.
Exactly.
All right, well, that was all our awesome sauce, so let's go into the week.
You're worthless and weak.
Okay, well, Steve from Oklahoma City says, way too much for me to list here. The only thing I will mention is Judith at the end making a big deal about call signs and then dropping them a few seconds later. Yeah, exactly. That was a bit weak. Especially it's like, no, RJ, you have to say this.
Yeah, they didn't quite do their secret call signs very well, did they?
Yeah, not really. Well, then again, it's RJ's little, and I think that was the first time we actually got to hear him say more than just 2 things.
Yeah. Right. Well, next is LT from NC, and he gives, for me, it was how Virgil's waffled between being a bad guy, then an okay guy, then a bad guy, then just being weak and miserable. Agreed. The thing on the boat with the Rick adjacent items, I just had a hard time buying it, and especially the drawing on the cell phone, just because it would have required Rick to be eyeballing Judith for that part of the picture. I can't believe if he was able to see them that he wouldn't have tried to get to them. Yeah.
Yeah, plus I don't think it was Rick that actually did that.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that drawing, I don't think it was him at all. And on top of that, there was Japanese writing in there too. So, and I'm like, does Rick really know Japanese? Within the few of, 3 or 4 years he was around, he was able to learn Japanese. And, is he really a good artist?
Well, that is a very good question, because I don't think we ever really seen him show off any of his artistic skills.
Exactly.
Yeah. I'll go in it later, but there was something I did find about the picture of the cell phone screen, but I'll give in our Watt sauce. Well, that was it for our listeners' week sauce, and I kind of had a little back and forth between what would I consider Watt and what would it be week sauce, but this is what I just decided to do. For basically what I found was weak was just Virgil being this dork. I mean, I get with LT, I totally agree. It's like him just kind of waffling, being like the bad guy, the good guy, bad guy, just all over the place. And then finding out, I guess, his true motives of why he, I guess, got Michonne to come with him. But it was just like for that scene when they're going in there to go, because he guess wants Michonne to go into that building to clear everything, because he said his wife and kids were in there. But it was just like him trying to get through that little spot where whatever it was, like big case, and there's a walker there. Michonne, stabs the walker to clear it off, and she gets through fine. But he gets in and just gets stuck or something, and then of course it's like traps. It just slams the trap door or whatever, so they're stuck in there.
Yeah.
I was a little like, oh really? I think I even said it out loud when I saw this. I was just like, oh, okay, he's gonna get him trapped. Oh,
and he likes to say clear.
Yeah.
Like somebody else we knew.
We know.
And he was in his crazy pants, just like, Morgan was too. But in this case, he was like, no, I'm just going to trip out on shrooms. The character itself. I had a little bit of an issue with that whole thing once we finally find him on the island. They're on the island. She gets to know him. She realizes his situation. But you do realize the last time, let's say when Michonne met Morgan, he was Crazy Pants City just the same as Virgil. So you would think she would learn or have learned already, all right, this person is a Crazy Pants. I got to be really extra on my toes with this person. and yet she still gets stuck in a cell or whatever, and and having to trip out on tea. I don't know. To me, that just to add on with something I had that was weak.
Yeah. The other part was like, it was kind of like, how did Michonne know they were Rick's boots? And because it's been like what, 6+ years?
Yeah,
since
but
that all happened.
You would think that she would know how messed up they last looked if she remembers, but the smelling part of it, I don't know.
Yeah, that's the part that I was kind of like, and then she smelled them. I was like, huh?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, I don't get that at all. And then Virgil, then Virgil was all like, oh, boats, drift ashore all the time. But I felt like he was like insinuating that, like, I guess possibly Rick was not there that long ago. I don't know. It's like, it was just like, I mean, I get it's for, they have to go get her to the movies, somehow. I guess maybe the movie will have something about what he's been doing during all this time, and maybe that boat, what was the reason he was there, or like, all that other stuff, and like this, I guess, New Jersey situation. So, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I just found it weak because I just felt it was like so rushed together at the end, and it was just all like, oh, she finds boots, and then she finds a boat with like his stuff on it, and then it's like I kind of wrote in here, it's like, oh, and then she calls Judith and she's all like, oh yeah, we're fine, so just go. I mean, we had this kind of whole crazy hallucination, all the stuff about Michonne, and then like finding new people, and then right at the very end it was like, oh, that's right, we have to get her going, like we got to push her towards the movies or whatever. So I just felt it, the whole end of the show was just kind of like blah 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 blah. Okay, she's gone. I don't know, I just agreed with some of you, what some of you are all saying. It's just kind of like they didn't really do a good job with her send-off.
No, it wasn't that great of an episode, I thought. That's why my rating was actually going to be lower. But, to me, there was like just way too many similarities between the way Rick was sent off and the way that Michonne was sent off. And yeah, those were basically my weak sauces on this, and maybe what sauces, but the odds of Rick's stuff being found by her was really slim, in my opinion. Come on. It's like, out of all the places, oh, by the way, there's an island, and his boat happens to get stranded, and then all this stuff happens to be where she just looks, and I have to suspend my disbelief, like, extremely hard, because I could see somewhere later on down the road for a particular comic book plot that happened and put her in those shoes, but I would think that it that would have to be recorded later on from where they are within the show. But they could have waited and just filmed her scenes late, for a future episode now or something before she had to leave the show. But I could be, that could be deep diving for me. Maybe they're like, oh, we have to do this now and just get her off.
Yeah. That's how I kind of felt the whole thing was. Just have to get her off.
Off the show. We got one episode left. Let's do it.
Yep. All right. I guess that was it for all of our weak sauce. So let's move on to our what sauce.
What?
All right. So who's our first listeners? What sauce?
That would be Steve from Oklahoma City. And he says, what about the patrol boat? Did Michonne send it back to Oceanside while she tried for New Jersey? I would think that it was left there.
The big boat that they were on that had Rick's, that they fixed, because I think that's where then at the end, like I hear the other people say, "Hey, we're coming up to the coast," and like to Michonne.
Yeah, and then they drop her off.
Right. So they continue on somewhere or waiting for her or something. I don't know.
I would assume that they drove back to, I would say she probably maybe said, hey, this is where Oceanside is.
Oh, I guess that's true. So,
like, that like Steve was saying, maybe she, Michonne send them back to Oceanside. So maybe they just, now they have a boat for Oceanside. But they've had one before. Because I remember Carol jumping off one.
Yeah. I didn't really quite think about that one. All right, well then our next What Sauce comes from Dieta from Detroit, and she says, Heath in a memory, we could say now we know what happened to him. Shrug emoji and the crying laughing face. Yeah, they had to throw him in there, I guess.
Yeah, a little bit.
All right, well, that was it for our listeners. What Sauce? I didn't have any, but you did.
Yeah. What was with the chalk or grease painted versions of Judith and Michonne on that iPhone? Like I said before, Judith had a little bit of long hair, but I'm thinking that the guy that, to me, is like, who and what did this? And I'm thinking it had to be somebody that knew Rick and Rick was describing them, and then the person drew them, but like I said, I don't think that was Rick that did that. Wow. Yeah.
Oh, and that's like, I tried to, in my worst possible way, trying to translate the, Japanese. And then I was like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I wasting all my time? Just go to Google.
Yeah.
And sure enough, it was from gamesradar.com. And I guess they talked to Angela Kane. And she confirmed in an email to them that the Japanese, or to Insider, that the Japanese message translates to believe a little longer. Though she stopped short of clarifying what that could be interpreted to mean, calling it a hint at some larger story that took place. It's likely that Anne, the cult leader, last seen flying off with Rick in The Walking Dead Season 9, wrote this message alongside the drawing of Michonne and Judith, given that she was partial to portraiture during her stint on the main show. So, obviously I guess we'll see. If it's a larger story, that means movie.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that was it for our What Sauce, unless you had any more. Let's go on to our Sad and Aw Sauce. Aww. Alrighty. We only had one Sad Odd Sauce, and that came from Dieta from Detroit. And she says, Michonne and Judas goodbye. Crying face. She gave her mom the okay to go find the brave man. Again, cry face. Also, when Michonne saw those boots, man, I felt my heart break all over again for her. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a touching moment. Yeah, definitely. And it was needed. Yes, definitely needed for her to move on too. But I'm just hoping we get this movie. I hope nothing gets pushed back to the point where we couldn't do it. Because you know how things happen like that,
Yep. We'll see.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, that was it for our listeners' Sad Aw Sauce. What did you have?
Well, seeing Andrea in the lineup when with Negan and everything. I should say seeing Andrea and the lineup. Sorry for the flashbacks.
Yeah.
That would have been interesting to see Andrea in the lineup. That would be funny. Be like, oh wait, there she is.
Wait, yeah, she lived longer than
exactly.
Well, yeah, then it'd be like, okay, so Michonne, your bad decision somehow made her live longer.
Nah,
that's funny.
No, she wouldn't get that canteen if that were the case.
Yeah.
Definitely the goodbye. The goodbye got me between Judith and Michonne. That was something that was touching, was needing, and Kaylee Fleming was really good at that. It
was a good scene between them two. It's just, yeah. I just agree. Basically, it was with seeing Andrea, and it really on my second rewatch, and it's like you could listening to her screams as Michonne walks away. It's like it really was kind of heart-wrenching because, it's like, okay, yeah, obviously that's not what happened. But like, if you listen to the audio, it's like she is screaming blood, and you can only picture in your mind, she's being ripped apart by walkers right now. And it's like, and that like, what's so I don't know, it made me really sad.
It made me think too, they must have pulled some of the audio from other episodes in earlier seasons that Laurie Holden was in, and just to get her voice of her screaming, because there were a few times when she made screaming like that. I don't think they filmed, like, they just took some of those particular scenes for that one event that happened, but they had to extend it, so they had to get more screams out of her. So it was probably in the audio bank.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sure obviously they can do quite a bit of things in post production, but they made a point to, at least that's how I felt, because I just it was like so sad.
Yep.
All right. Well, that was it for our sad and awesome. So now let's go to feedback.
We can talk about it. Done talking. Time to listen.
All right. Yay. Guess we got a new voicemail from Renee from the internet. And let me go ahead and play this.
Hi guys, Renee Murray here. I'm calling about the Walking Dead Talk Through Media podcast. OMG. Michonne is gone to get her man. I am so freaking excited. I do not know what to do. That's how excited I am. When the show first came on, and I was like, okay, Michonne would never put herself in this situation. Why are they doing this? I cannot take it. This is awful. I hate the way they're sending her off. But guess what? I'm super excited because now I know she has gone to get her man. She's bringing Rick Grimes, my boo, back home. Yes. Love you guys. Stay safe.
Thank you, Renee. You get a showcase winner. Thank you for leaving us a feedback, and can't really disagree with you too much. Glad to see Michonne is going on to get her man.
Very enthusiastic. Thanks, Renee.
Yeah, I can't disagree with her. It's like, please give us those movies soon. But yeah, she's going to go get her man.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Renee. All right. Well, we also got another voicemail from Steve from Oklahoma City. So here we go.
Hey, Walking Dead Talk Through. This is Steve, and this is for What We Become. And I guess, for my rating, I only gave it an 8. It's I had a lot of problems with this episode. I'm not gonna lie. I have not liked this whole storyline of how they have decided to write Michonne out of the story. And I mean, I'm glad that she's alive. I'm glad that they didn't kill her off. I just think there's a lot of things that don't make sense to me, that I don't understand, to the level of that whole phone thing. And are we to assume that Rick drew that picture on there? Just knowing what Michonne, and I'm assuming those Chinese characters or whatever language, whatever Asian language that is, that's the Daido and Shodo names in that writing. So I don't. Maybe he knew that were the nicknames they were going to give each other, or the whatever call signs, and then he kind of could guess what Judith was going to look like when she got older. There's a lot of issues with that part of it. I loved there at the end, even though it was totally confusing of who she met and why she would decide to go with them and join. She's trying to get to New Jersey because that's what the ship's log said, something about New Jersey. And now she's going to hook up with this, whatever this group is that looks like they have horses and stuff. It just doesn't, but I did love that she cut the zombies the same way when she cut the zombies that were protecting her when she went and saved Andrea. So, which kind of bookends it with the beginning of the episode where she didn't save, where we see the kind of the flash sideways where she didn't St. Andrew. So, okay, talk to you later.
Thank you, Steve, again for another awesome voicemail.
Yeah.
Keep them coming. We always love them. It's lots of good points.
Yeah, I have to definitely agree with Steve, though. Yeah, he had the same idea. I thought, I was like, well, did he really see her? Did he? And why Jersey?
Yeah, that's like...
Everybody was thinking Philadelphia.
Well, I mean, for our group, not the, I guess where they're possibly sending, Michonne to. But yeah, it's like... because there's nothing like that in the comics, right? There's not a New Jersey I don't know. It's the
well, the correlation is, and I'll get into it a little bit more later. Something happens. Somebody goes to Chicago. That's it. A group or whatever go to Chicago. They go on a journey, but Michonne is with them, and the similarities to the actual comic to the show would be Michonne steps foot in this community, and there's like a bulletin, and we saw a bulletin, which is, I should really get into this a little later, but yeah, but it's something of similarity, but that's the only similar portion to it. But as far as like them having two separate, this is where the show separates from the comic book really completely, because Rick went somewhere and the other group is doing something that's going somewhere else, and it's kind of all wacky. So this is where it starts to branch away from the comic. So it's there are some similarities, but it's kind of different in a sense.
Yeah, and I'm sure they've been probably looking for a way to get away from the comics, and then now, since the comic is done, they really can go into new, territory, because they're not necessarily being constrained by the comic anymore, or to a certain point. We're obviously going to get the Commonwealth, but but I guess Rick didn't draw that. At least from what Angela King said, and then also the Dido and Shoto that he was talking about. I mean, I don't know where those necessarily came from, or at least maybe I forgot. But yeah, what Angela King said was that the writing said "believe a little longer," which I believe is like. So if Jadis or somebody wrote that, why would they write that if it wasn't Rick? It kind of.
Well, Jadis liked to sculpt people while she's nude, and maybe she decided to, she was hanging around Rick and he was talking about them, and she's seen Michonne and Judith, and she's maybe artistically inclined, and maybe she knew Japanese and wrote it down as a tribute.
Yeah, because it did say Rick at the top and then the Japanese letters. So it's like, hey, Rick, believe a little stronger, believe a little longer. So
yeah, maybe she left it for Rick, Jadis, but drew the Michonne thing for him. And maybe something happened to Jadis. Right.
No, I mean, this is all conjecture, but that would make more sense. It's like he somehow got away, or something happened to her, and she left that as like a, have hope, or like keep going, stay strong, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then New Jersey, I mean, New Jersey's not that far from Virginia, right? I mean, I'm not entirely.
It's literally, there's a journey to it, but the thing is that it's still a ways away to get there. So I'm thinking, a boat can get you faster, maybe, than a car.
Yeah. Well, no, and I was thinking for the show, it's like, obviously it's not like they're going to send Michonne to Texas, to like, it's especially how we see like there's this big, huge group that is marching or pioneering their way somewhere.
Yeah. Well, you would think that they would like left her off on a shore point to point out that it was Jersey and have like the Statue of Liberty's backside facing you, so you know you're in New Jersey, because the New York side you actually face the face of the Statue of Liberty, whereas when you're in Jersey, you're only looking at from behind.
From behind, yeah. Well,
So.
I mean, she's not quite there yet. Then I don't know. Alrighty. Well, thank you, Steve. And now let's go into our next listener's feedback, and that comes from Dieta from Detroit. And she goes on, she says, overall, this was a great episode. I had been wondering how they were going to handle Denai's exit. Was hoping they wouldn't kill her off, so it's still open for her and Andrew to return, hopefully, somewhere down the line. A girl can dream. Shrug, emoji. Yeah. I never thought that they were going to kill her off, because obviously there's the movie. So, you know,
they had to leave that open so that way people could fawn for her to come back. And then on top of that, I don't think Denai Guerrero really wanted to leave the character, just like Andrew Lincoln didn't want to leave the character either.
Yeah, but does that open up if we get another 20 more years of The Walking Dead? Are they going to come back to the main show?
I don't know. I think it's far-fetching. They might just end it at the movie at that point.
Yeah.
Or several movies.
Yeah,
but
isn't it supposed to be 3?
Yeah, I believe that they were setting for 3, but there's always speculation that they would only get to just the 1.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do that way, they could just end that whole series and be done with it. Because by the time they get to the movie, it's going to be another, 3 years or something?
Yeah.
With everything that's been delayed and waiting on Andrew Lincoln. And now it's being delayed because of, this whole
pandemic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. We'll see. All right. Well, she goes on. She says, so did I understand this right? Virgil turned into a crackpot when he realized he locked his family in with the dead. Might have to do a rewatch at that point. So then he locked his coworkers up too. That story was a bit confusing because while he was gone to Oceanside, who was feeding them? I think they should have left him locked up and drugged him as payback. Yeah, that's funny. I know. I kind of had the same. I was like, why did they just let him go? I guess I don't know, but I think that was kind of the point of him being crazy, or going back and forth or whatever, is because the new people did say that he, like, people came, they were helping him, but then they started running out of food, and I guess he must have been kind of in charge or something, because then they said, like, I guess there was like a fight, someone got hurt or something like that, and then Virgil showed up, but he showed up late. Mm-hmm. And so he just said, lock the door. And
that's what I got out of it too.
Yeah. So I guess he locked them all in there, but then they said it's like, oh, but he didn't realize that his wife and kids were in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I guess there must have been obviously some walkers in there, attacking people, and then he just shut it out of, like, trying to stop everything, or basically let everybody die, kind of like Gabriel. And so then once he realized that was, his wife and kids were there, then that just threw him over the edge and went into drug-induced craziness.
And got addicted, apparently.
Yeah.
Because that's all he wants to do. I just want to trip out, man.
Yeah.
Even Michonne actually said that to him at one point when she was, like, grilling him for Rick. She goes, "Are you high?" And I'm like,
oh, yeah. That's right. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, and I kind of... It was interesting to, I guess, to say, it's like, because Virgil obviously had been using the drugs himself to escape, because he then asked, like, Michonne, like, what did she, like, he wanted her to see something, and on his end he was seeing him with his wife and, like, his kids looking up the sky, and he was, like, saying something. He's like, oh yeah, looking up at heaven. And then Michonne turns around back and says, she's all like, yeah, it took my family from me and I saw hell. It's like just the two sides of like,
I don't see what you see. I only see what I see. And you just like gave me a trip that I can't go back to ever again.
Yeah. But and that's part of what or at least what they're saying in the story was like driving him to, I don't know, do the things he did was because he couldn't just deal with the fact that, bad things happened.
Yeah.
And so he escapes to look at good things. And then Michonne's like, that's not how this works. All right. She continues on. She goes, okay, I got questions after this episode. First, how did they get on the cell phone and where did the cell phone come from? And we kind of discussed some of that already. And that group Michonne helped the people catch up to, is that the Annie Oakley tribe from Fear the Walking Dead? Is that where the new story is going? And yes, Kyle, I was very disappointed in the last season, but I'm still going to watch. And I do remember the comment about Daniel's album collection being destroyed. And that one album with the picture of somebody, maybe Beta. I definitely have to tune in to see the connections to The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll get into... I don't think there's a connection like that with Fear the Walking Dead, but then, again...
You never know. Who knows?
Right, we never know.
The guy had the cowboy hat on, and and he had that like poncho, I guess, like Daryl does on occasion, and then maybe cowboy boots.
Yeah,
but I don't think so for the fact that this is years ahead of Fear at this point. It's still ahead of Fear, so I don't think that would happen. But it would be nice, Dieta, if that would happen. I would like to see that.
Yeah. Well, and that's I'll just go in then too, because that was kind of part of my feedback, was kind of responding a little bit to that. It was just because we are so far in the future than when Fear is. So, I mean, unless they hint about something when we get back to Fear, and just Virginia and her group or whatever. I mean, because that caravan that we see, I mean, it was a massive amount of people. And so, and they did treat it a lot like pioneers, with like covered wagons and stuff. So it's like, so, I mean, they could, it's like they're in Texas right now on Fear. So as much time has passed, to where, the time frame that we are in Fear, who knows? Maybe something happens that will start leading us towards that, Virginia and that area. Because at this moment, I don't know. There's still lots of other survivors, out there that, we know of and don't know of. So it just could be could be a bunch of people from New York.
Yeah, true.
All right, and she continues on. She says, I'm in my feelings about Michonne leaving the show, but again, the send-off was very well done. That whole dream sequence and flashback made for a good episode. So I guess Judith has to tell everyone her mom is going to find Rick or the Brave Man. I think Michonne should have at least talked to a grown-up and let them know what she was doing. The last thing they knew, she was going off with a strange man to bring back weapons. So no weapons about Brack. What does that mean for our people? All the communities left are some people in Alexandria and Oceanside. The communities are dwindling. How are they going to fight the rest of the Whisperers? Because we know as long as Beta is still alive, there will be another attack. Can't wait to see the test of the see the rest of the season. And that's kind of why I gave it my weak sauce. Just a little bit of like kind of the whole setup and just pushing Michonne off into, a new journey. But I mean, it kind of made me think that when Michonne and Judith were talking on the walkies, was that in the future? Like that what we're going to see in the next, episodes, was that happening while she was dealing with Virgil and just all that going on? But, because it's like, she did say it's like, oh, we're okay. Alpha isn't going to bother us anymore. So it's like, okay, well, we do see that, okay, Beta's still around, and, they're still fighting. They're not safe. And then I was kind of like, yeah, like I'm sure, people would want to know more. So it's like, why not tell her like, hey, let me talk to Daryl or an adult and just say, hey, what's up? I didn't find weapons. She didn't give, it almost, I kind of made me feel like Michonne was just being selfish because she didn't even relay any kind of like
information
or like that she even cared about what was going on. I don't know. It just felt just so just like.
Well, she's consumed with the idea of Rick, so that's the whole point.
Well, no, true, but it's like, okay, well, she's been so this, I'm protecting Oceanside or I'm protecting, Alexandria. Like she's kind of is the de facto leader of that group, and then she totally basically made a bad decision following this guy who said he had weapons, and then it completely was a bust. And wouldn't she want to relay that to the rest of the group?
Yeah, definitely adult was needed on site to watch those kids while they're on the radio. You don't know who you're going to talk to. Look at Eugene.
Carl, stay in the house.
No, that's all of us here. But yeah, it's pretty cool though that, it's like she was able to get that information to Judith. But yeah, I definitely agree with the fact that, you got to tell an adult. And on top of that, this might not be too far into the future. This might be to a point where they settled after the attack on Hilltop and everything. And maybe she got back to Alexandria or something. And that's how she was able to sit there on the CB.
Milwaukee. Yeah. Well, and then another point that was made by Steve or we brought up before that was like, okay, the new people dropped Michonne off, so maybe they are heading to Oceanside. And so maybe they do come up and say, hey, she went off and we're here to help, or, I don't know. So
yeah, plus, we'll and how far away was Michonne from those communities, in all honesty?
Yeah.
That made me think too. Yeah, it's like communication with a walkie-talkie. CBs could go further, depending on relays and all that. I know Eugene was working on something to broaden that, but the regular handheld walkie-talkies don't really have much of a range unless they have something to amplify the signal. But all right, now I'm not going to get into that whole thing.
Yeah,
I'm starting to sound like LT. LT would probably back me up on this too.
All right. Well, that was all of Dietta's feedback. Thank you, Dietta. And so, who's next?
Well, that would be Glynis from Toronto, and Glynis says, "What was in Rick's boot that Michonne was starting to pull out inside the boot? Then she just stopped when Virgil interrupted her. Maybe reserved for the Walking Dead movie," and she says, crossing her fingers. And that's a good question.
Yeah, it's like I did catch a pickup on that, so it's like I wasn't sure if she did find something or she was just looking and there was nothing there. But, then again, yeah, Virgil does walk up and then she does stop. And so they obviously, it was done, you have to take these things like, okay, that was a cue that there's something going on, but we just don't get to see it.
So maybe Rick's feet were not so big and he stuffed his boots and
or some dirty socks. That's what she was smelling.
Yeah, I know. Who knows? She continues on saying, what if the Walking Dead style was interesting to see what the dark side of Michonne would have looked like by her choice of not saving Andrea from death by a walker and joining up with Negan and the Saviors. Her life and her character makeup would have turned out very different if she had taken another path than the one chosen, hence the title of this episode showed the alternative routes her life could have taken, which is true. And it was nice to see. It's kind of like a Marvel Comics What If episode, in a sense, but with, in this case, from Michonne.
Yep.
She continues on saying, also illustrated and played out choices made when she was the one left and passed by the passing car of Daryl, which had originally been Rick, Carl, and Michonne passing by the stranger, and later picking up the orange backpack, which became Glenn's, when the stranger had, met his demise. And yeah, it was weird how they had to put Daryl in the Rick character position within that scene, because obviously they weren't going to get Andrew Lincoln. And we didn't even see Carl. He was in the car, I guess. Yeah. Next part would be Michonne killing Glenn and Heath after Glenn had killed Savior Lara, who looked as if Michonne and Laura were roommates in that what-if scenario at the Savior Satellite Base Station, instead of Glenn killing both of those guys while they slept in their beds. And, that was a pretty cool catch. The fact that, we did, and it did save Glenn from a horrendous death from the bat, but, So, from the angle and perspective of the survivors, look just as bad as the saviors were. Same as the tables turned, and rather terrifying seeing first Daryl shoot Michonne with the crossbow bolt, and then Rick stamps on her arm, and his holy-toed boot preventing her from reaching her sword, and shoots her straight in the head with his Colt Python gun. Yeah, that was quite interesting, and the way that you bring that up of the perspective of, and a lot of people talk about this, where if you were from the Savior's point of view, you would see our survivors, like Rick's group or whatever, as being just as bad in what they do. And a certain point of view, and where, I think this goes back to during the whole all-out war, and people are really complaining, and other podcasts were going over it, and they try to look at it from that perspective, and yeah, it does make sense to be like, oh yeah, well, our group could look like they're bad as well in other people. It's just a matter of a point of view, but of course, we're always seeing it from this point of view of our survivors.
Right. And that's it was very interesting getting that played out, because then, so this is kind of this is in Michonne's, head. And so, these are like about some of maybe her regrets, and just like how she also was like, would have looked at this. Because it was interesting to see, though, that, she's the one that actually gets to do the, Lucilleing in her, drug induced dreamed. But then the person that she basically knocks off is her.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay. And then you do have Daryl, and then Rick, basically she's trying to escape, but then gets shot and gets killed by Rick and Daryl. So it's kind of like, this is just showing her battle between just some of the choices that she's made or they made, and then because otherwise it's like, well, then wouldn't she be like, oh, I felt bad, but then we want, the saviors won, because we were bad people. But it's like, no, they were right. It's just, I guess, showing how the brutality of it all is just, everybody thinks they're right, and so everybody that's not you is the enemy, I guess. Yeah.
All right. She continues on saying, the comparisons between the scenes from the past when Michonne made the pivotal decisions to no longer walk with her pet walkers. The one from season 4 when she made the conscious decision to kill her walker pets and go off in search of Rick and Carl in The Walking Dead season 4 episode 9. And then in this, The Walking Dead season 10 episode 13, to again kill the pet walkers and help the duo get back to that seemingly large organized group in the distance. Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, with their she kind of did that 3 times, I think, overall in the series. First with Andrea, or was it with Andrea?
Well, she showed up and saved Andrea, and she
actually had to kill the pets when they encountered, or just before they encountered the governor. Remember, they were making too much noise, so she had to kill them. So she did sacrifice them. Then she sacrificed them again when she went to go find Rick and Carl, and then now she did this again. So this is the third time. So
Yeah.
hopefully the third time's a charm for the fact that, we'll see something more with Michonne. Next part would be Michonne looking at herself in the in season 6, episode 16, and season 7, episode 1 lineup, assessing her character while steeped up on Virgil's herbal tea, and Rick looking at her through the prison fence at the prison. A momentous and far-reaching meeting was made possible by Rick's and Michonne's choices for them to meet. Paths and routes pretty much intersecting. Is it all just fate or coincidence? As Virgil said, Michonne was maybe meant to meet Virgil and put her back on the path to finding Rick. I think it's just coincidence, in my opinion. It's also the same thing with Rick when Rick had bumped into Morgan when they were looking for weapons. And they just got Michonne into their group, and he brought her with him and was able to change her or figure her out and then just, accept her later on.
Yeah.
It's kind of a path, but what I see a lot of times, a lot of the writers go back and I see a lot of redundancies, but I guess you have to do that with some of the characters, or if not plots based around the zombie apocalypse, because you're always going to find somebody who's a hermit that's gone crazy pants and has some sort of tie-in to what's going on with what you're doing. And either A, you have to dispatch them, or just, in both cases with Morgan, you just left them. Morgan and Virgil were both left. If you remember, Rick left Morgan back in, what was it, Cooks County or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And now Michonne left Virgil on that island. And, I don't know. Like I said, there definitely are similarities. And the last part, she goes, I would have given this episode a rating of 10 out of 10 to have maybe an after-credit scene of Rick somewhere or other gazing into the distance. And obviously, we all would have gotten it 10 out of 10 or maybe 20 out of a 20 to finally see, Rick Grimes, alive and doing well.
Yeah.
And probably clean-shaven by this time, too.
Yeah. Yep. Agreed. Would have been nice, but they're not going to give us that.
Yeah. No.
It's like, wait for the movie. That's all they're telling us.
That's all they're telling us, and they're teases.
Yep. Thank you, Glennis, for the feedback. And next we have LT from NC. He goes on, overall, it wasn't a bad episode to me, but it just seemed like a weak one compared to last week and the beheading of Alpha as a conclusion. I agree. So we know Michonne is off on her trek to find Rick, and that does leave the door open for some sort of miniseries or movie. But I really wanted a bigger send-off to someone who has been a major character for this series. Couldn't agree more. I mean, it's the more I think about it, it's just like, it's like she's been on the show for so long, and it's, I mean, just like Rick and Carl, I don't know, it's just like, we know they need to get her to where they need her to go for obviously movie and stuff like that, but it was kind of just like, oh, okay, here, just give her some drugs, flashbacks, done. All right. Thanks, LT. Next.
Now on to Todd from Ohio, who says, my only thought of this one was, I wonder if that cavalry Michonne is trying to catch up with is connected to the Fear the Walking Dead group at all. And Todd is pretty much feeling the same way with Dieta. And yeah, I don't think so. I think it's just coincidence. It would be great if it were, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think we already know in this world, like, gas, basically, unless you're making it yourself, it's like, it's not a thing. You have to kind of go back to the olden days. So you have covered wagons and horses and all that stuff. So it's like, that's how, if you're still surviving this world, and like that would be your mode of transportation, and just by similarly seemingly like, you know, what we've seen in Fear. Yeah, that's to me is like that's really the only connection I don't see, at least at this point. They're catching up. All right, thanks, Todd. And then next is Cutter from Tennessee. He goes on and says, Michonne moving off to look for Rick. Good idea, poor execution. I know she wants to find Rick, and I know the little ass kicker gave her the green light, but just can't see her leaving RJ and Judith so easily either. Even knowing Alpha is out of the picture. All in all, though, a fantastic episode. Love all the throwbacks, the alternate timeline, and coming full circle of it all. The Walking Dead in top form. Thanks, Cutter. I haven't heard from you in a while, so I was glad that you could get in some of your feedback for this week. All right, well, that was all of our listeners' feedback, and we can go into ours. Did you have any other things to add, Mark?
Well, I could do mine towards the end because I'm going to go into the whole comic similarities if people want to hear it.
Yeah, and the only thing was
what are you guys doing here?
Hey! Well, there you are.
I've been this episode was recorded at a different normal day and time, so I'm working, so I couldn't participate this week for most of it. But I have actually been listening in, quite an experience. So, but so I'm gonna join the rest of it. But well, I'll let you guys say your piece.
Yeah, no, I mean, perfect timing because I've kind of basically been already saying my feedback was just the whole connection with Fear, and I don't necessarily see it because of where Fear is in the timeline, and, you know, just very similar to what I think people would be doing in this point of the zombie apocalypse, and horses, you know, wagons, that's how they travel.
You're going to bring up the gas thing again. I heard it already.
All right. Well, why don't you go ahead with what you have?
Well, I mean, it was an interesting episode, I thought. You know, part It's a Wonderful Life, part hell, I guess. I agree with Glynis. That had to be Jadis that drew that on the cell phone. It makes perfect sense. Jadis was an art person, and you also mentioned what Angela Kang said, so that's pretty much a done deal, I think.
Yeah.
And that just seems like something she would do. I thought the hallucinations were really good and unexpected. You have to bring up Andrea. Man, I had the hots for her. From a long time ago, like even before, like when she was a guest. X-Files. Yeah. Yeah, but at the same time, though, it felt very contrived. It you know, first of all, Virgil, talk about Virgil in hell. That's a good, you know, kind of thing there. I think Virgil in hell, Virgil takes people to hell or whatever it is. So that was definitely indicative of that. Like all the stuff that had to do with him, he was just like an all over the place character. You know, makes you wonder like how the heck she even got roped into going to the island with him. And you know, none of the stuff that he said turned out to be true. I thought the whole thing was contrived, and it felt contrived. It just felt like, you know, well, this is what we have to do to get Michonne off the show and to get Judith, you know, to like give her blessing. But I mean, come on, like first of all, the kid's gonna want her to go home, and secondly, why wouldn't she go home? Why wouldn't she? Why is it so important for her to go there this very minute? Like, don't you think it would be better for her to get some of her people and to plan, something and to set off and go and New Jersey? What's up with that? But so there were certain parts that I liked about it and certain parts that I didn't like. The contrivity of it especially was just, I mean, it was obvious that the story was constructed in such a way to, let Michonne join the movies if they ever come, and and I think they will eventually come. Like, Mark, don't try to make people think that the virus is going to be around for the next 5 years.
No, I don't think it's going to be around for the next 5 years. But I think, oddly enough, it's like, viewership went up, yes, and interest would do
we'll talk
regardless.
About that. Don't steal my thunder, man.
But the fact is, I'm not trying to steal your thunder. I'm just bringing it up. But the idea is that, a lot of people were, for the longest time, were jumping off the idea of even watching this show. And now you have to understand, too, Andrew Lincoln, we have not heard from him. Last time we heard from him was, just after the show, and he put his little YouTube goodbye to Denai Guerrero, which I posted on the page.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, we haven't heard anything. He only did one movie. I would love to hear from him again.
Has that even come out yet?
No.
I don't think so, right?
Not yet, no. That was scheduled to be out, but I think it only... was it filmed in England? I think it was.
I thought it was Australia.
Oh.
Yeah.
But, it probably was an overseas film, and it probably only will hit our Amazon or Netflix at certain points. It probably wasn't a wide, big world release. It's not like...
I wouldn't say that was true, just because it was made elsewhere.
Well, there are movies that are made elsewhere that do become international.
Of course.
But I didn't see any advertising for it or anything.
I don't think it's out.
Ah, okay. But
talk about the movie, right?
Yeah. The movie that Andrew Lincoln had done.
Oh, not the Walking Dead one, but the other.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking on this for this particular episode the comparisons to the comic and the closeness, and I'll give it, and people could skip ahead after this and go right to ratings. But basically, Michonne and a group go towards what would be called the Commonwealth, and she's in charge of that group with Eugene and everybody else, and they meet up with somebody, but they get inside the Commonwealth and they see on a board, just like we saw that billboard that we saw with the areas and locations with numbers on it. It was very similar to that, where you see a wall, but they have pictures of people. Have you seen this person? This is my father. This is my brother. Well, Michonne sees something that says, have you seen my mother? And it was Michonne's daughter that posted a picture of Michonne on it. And that was a way of like Michonne finding somebody that she loved. So it's very similar to the comic in a sense where she finds, Rick's boots. But in this case, she's going to Jersey, whereas in the comic book, they all went to Chicago. And I think they're going to go with a route, from what I could tell, where when Eugene goes to goes meet up with Stephanie, is that her name?
Yeah.
Then he goes with King Ezekiel and Yumiko to Chicago. Or in this case, where did they say to meet up? I forgot.
Is it Philadelphia? No. They're coming from Philadelphia, or from that direction. I don't know. I know we talked about it, but I was thinking, Brian, because you were saying, was it Philadelphia or
no Philadelphia? Everybody was thinking that they were going to Philadelphia, or that that's where Rick was with the helicopter ride for the movie trailer.
Oh, but Stephanie's coming from a different direction, but then they're going to meet up
in the middle. Yeah,
in the middle. So,
well, I mean, Philadelphia and New Jersey's right across from Philadelphia.
Yeah,
so it's possible it could be both.
Yeah,
Who knows? We'll find out.
All right. Well, was that all?
That's all I got.
Alrighty. All right. Well, then, thanks, Brian.
I had a couple more things to say, actually.
Okay.
I thought that it was interesting to see Michonne kill Michonne. So I thought that was interesting. I did not take her for a henchman. Well, essentially, she was like a Simon, except Simon got to swing the bat in this case.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Was interesting. Like, gave her the speech, and So it was interesting though to see how basically it seemed like that one change, her not stepping up to save Andrea, led to all these other things happen. And, it was also interesting how Rick, was the one that killed her in the end.
Yeah.
I thought that the way that they used the footage was interesting because in some cases it was just like right from, what we saw, or, an alternate cut or something like that. And in other cases it was, like, I think in the lineup, Aaron was there. I thought I saw his face. And of course, Aaron wasn't at the lineup. So not in the show.
Right.
And of course, she kills Glenn and Heath, which now we finally know what happened to Heath.
In the alternate universe.
In the alternate universe, yes. But it was interesting. I didn't expect this, so it was much different than, say, what they did for Rick. But if I have to compare what they did for Rick to what they did for Michonne, the episode they did for Rick's send-off was a lot better.
Oh, definitely.
I thought that this one felt very discombobulated. It was centered around a character that wasn't very interesting, and was a waste of skin essentially. And I didn't get who. Yeah, I only got to see the episode once, so at the end she saves a couple of people and heads off, and I heard you guys say it, and for whatever reason I didn't see it. Like, there was a bunch of people, like in the I didn't even see the people.
It was like a horde of people and like a caravan heading further, like north or whatever it is, northwest.
Have to go back and take another look at that.
Yeah, and it was like a massive amount of people.
Yeah, it looked like a herd of walkers, but you could tell it's people because they're not. You would definitely hear that, but you don't hear anything.
Yeah. I like I said, I only got to see it the one time, and I didn't notice that. I will also say, I think Mark, you had mentioned it about the Talking Dead coming back.
Mm-hmm.
There was something like, I only got to watch the episode last night, and quite honestly, I felt really out of sorts the last couple of days.
Oh, me too.
I've been like professing feelings and talking about these like, like crazy just things that I should never say, but I am saying. And there was something very comforting in Talking Dead being back that I didn't expect. Like, it felt like we're going to be all right. We're going to keep going, even though what is going on right now is unprecedented and we've never seen anything like this before in our lives.
Yeah.
It felt good that show was able to come back. Like you said, it's too bad that they didn't, do that last week, but I think it was probably they made the decision too late, so they couldn't
definitely
do it, but they're just one of those things. But I would say, like, if I had to give an awesome sauce, it would be to, that Talking Dead was back. Now, mind you, it wasn't a fantastic show. There's certain things, the cam quality wasn't all that great. The sound quality wasn't all that great. They should really give people like actual decent microphones to use.
I agree.
I'm a podcaster. What are you,
Yeah, well, it's funny. If you look at Gimple's home theater setup, that thing costs about $30,000 right behind him.
I bet.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just thought that, that said, even though it was kind of, put together kind of, haphazardly, the sound quality and the video quality wasn't all that great. It was back, and it was essentially the show that you normally get in a different medium, Talking Heads kind of thing. But it was good, and I enjoyed it, and I know, like, people are just using this. It's funny, we podcast our episodes and have been for a couple of years now using Zoom, and it's like everybody wants to use Zoom now.
Yeah.
It's all local news. Like, everything I've been watching, you can see like when the picture of who is talking highlights.
Yeah.
It's funny, but we've been using Zoom now for 2 years, so it's kind of funny. But anyway, so it was good. It wasn't great. It could have been better. I finally know how to say Vivian C. It's not say. I thought it was C. Say. It's C.
Oh.
Because I heard that on Talking Dead. And it didn't seem like much of a naval base. That was like, it just seemed like
An abandoned outpost.
Yeah, it was like I think it was like a research center.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't any naval base. It was, or it didn't seem like one.
No.
And
Yeah.
Anyway, but Virgil was just annoying.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah,
he's no Morgan.
But the funny thing is, he sounded like Morgan at times. Like, there was.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier, and I thought it was like he had that. I had that whole Morgan vibe throughout the whole thing. It's very similarity of him losing his mind. He lost his family. Have something stupid that he did, and instead of, like, being just crazy pants, he was just tripping balls all the time.
Yeah.
He was just like, I'm just going to trip out, take this ecstasy or whatever in this tea. And he
so
showed
what the
an
hell
addiction.
was in that tea anyway?
Yeah, it was some sort of herbal
Yeah,
hallucinogen.
and
That's why I said shroom trip, because
it was. He said it was Jimson weed.
yeah.
So, I mean, I didn't go further than that to look it up, but that's what he said. Which, it's like, oh, that's just like a daffodil. Like that's powerful weed.
Anyway, that's about all I can think of for. I'm going on no sleep today.
Aw.
Yeah, I've been having trouble sleeping during this whole thing. So
Yeah, the past 2 days I've been too.
It's
Being
really
cooped up.
It's
It's not
yeah.
out of whack.
good for anyone.
Well, I mean, that's the funny thing, though. I work from home normally, but now I'm home all the time. The only time I ever leave the house is to walk Shorty or, occasionally to, pick up a coffee or something like that. But aside from that, it's been home all the time. And I don't know. It's been kind of stressful.
Yeah, no, it's a change from all of us because it's like I barely have left the house, and I went to the grocery store. What was it, Monday? Because I wanted to wait till everybody did their mass panic buying because they were shutting Illinois down.
Yeah,
and it was like stuff was somewhat semi-stocked, but it was just like the social distancing and like staying away from people, and like literally it was like okay, dude, get away from it's like,
I know. I had that yesterday.
It's so like weird to actually like, here we are, we podcast about a zombie apocalypse show, and then we're living day to day now being like, I don't need I don't want people around me, and just worried and scared about this.
Yeah, but you can't take them out like zombies, though.
I know. That's why it's like if this
like
was
a really
zombie,
boring zombie apocalypse. It's slow. It's like,
Yeah.
come on, if you're gonna kill us off, just get it over with.
yeah, because we can still binge Netflix and still like that's not like, oh gosh, man, the zombie apocalypse. What am I gonna do? Oh, I have power and everything. Oh, I'll go take a bath because I have hot water. Oh,
Watch Picard.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
All right.
And yes, listeners, I should say, I'll say this now. I'm planning to come back full time next week, since we only have 2 episodes left now.
Yeah.
Hint, hint. Surprise. But it depends upon how much feedback we get for Picard next week. If we end up recording another 6-hour episode like we did for Discovery last year, it's not going to happen. So I'll just come for the last episode, but hopefully I will be back next week in full. Not this like a drive-by window type Brian.
Hey, we're happy that you're able to.
Could I give you 2 awesome sauces and a weak sauce, please? With extra sad sauce. Anyway.
Yeah. Do what you got to do. All right. Well, then let's go on to into our news, ratings, and info.
It started, it was just a couple weird stories on the news.
That's the extended version.
Yeah, I know. I had my soundboard. I still got to work on it.
That's okay.
I can edit it.
Nah, don't edit it. Don't even edit this. Just leave it in.
All right, Brian, we'll go forth.
All right. So The Walking Dead was slightly down and up at the same time. So this week in the 18 to 49, it got a 1.21 with 3.662 million viewers. And that's actually pretty darn good compared to how it had been doing. Last week, it was at a 1.23, so it's slightly lower this week, but it was up, over, I think 168,000, I think. 168,000 viewers at 3.494. So that's a pretty good performance, I think.
Yeah.
And I have to think that it's funny. I think the coronavirus has been helping ratings for The Walking Dead. I think it's kind of reminding people of The Walking Dead, and I think that's part of it. But Talking Dead this week got a 0.46 in the 18 to 49 with 1.486 million viewers. That's up from 0 and 0 because last week it wasn't on. The previous week it got a 0.32 with 1.322 million viewers. So as you can see, ratings were up for that as well. So I thought that was pretty good. And in the Parrot analytics, now Parrot measures what they call average demand expressions. And what I believe that has to do with is it's measuring kind of the social media zeitgeist out there, like who's talking about what. And this week, definitely, I think in social media, The Walking Dead got a huge boost, coronavirus related, because in overall, it went to number 2, second to only, and I still don't understand this. The number 1 show overall is SpongeBob SquarePants.
It is.
Why is this even a show?
Well, yeah, it's also a comic book. I know the artist for it too.
Oh, okay.
But apparently, it is huge with adults as well as kids. So
Yeah.
Not in this household.
Well, I know that.
Anyway.
Not over by me either. So
Yeah, not me either.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, it got a 92.9 million, so almost 93 million. And that is actually just a little bit under SpongeBob, but it's actually way above everything else. So pretty good. It just means, like I say, that like people are talking about The Walking Dead on social media, which makes perfect sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
As far as this episode, as we mentioned, Talking Dead is back. This was, and it was good that it was back because it was obviously Denai Guerrera's last episode. And it was good to have it back. I already talked about that. But we got some breaking news of not a great nature. The first bit of news is that the Walking Dead World Beyond has been postponed. It was originally going to air on April 12th, right after the finale of this season of The Walking Dead. And no date has been given. So what we can assume is it's either one of two things. Either they've decided to hold off to have it like after things have normalized, which to me makes no sense at all. What it probably is they weren't finished. So they were probably doing post-production on it and couldn't finish it before things got kind of locked down on in California. So their work's probably still continuing, but it's continuing at home. So that probably means that it'll take longer to do. So, like, especially if they have to write, say, the music, that makes it almost impossible to do because the music is something that they do in an orchestra, kind of thing. So unless they're going to have everyone individually record on Zoom, I don't think that's going to work. And for that matter, I don't think that's going to work. So that was probably what it is. But then we found out yesterday that, and we're recording this Wednesday morning, the 25th of March. So yesterday, 24th, they announced that the finale was going to be postponed so it will air sometime later this year. And it's basically for the same reason. They weren't finished all the effects on it. So it looks like we're going to be shortchanged an episode for season 10. And the 15th episode is going to be the end of season 10, unless they consider I heard something about the last episode like airing in sometime in a special kind of, episode thing, like probably in the summer or something. But so I don't know whether they'll consider that, season 11 or season 10 part 2 or something. I don't know, but yeah, so I don't know. It's crazy times we're living in, and everyone is going through it. It's like no other thing I think any of us have ever experienced before, because when there's kind of like, some kind of disaster, it's happening in one area, and largely other areas of the world are not experiencing it, but this is a global phenomenon. So
yeah. And I thought the decision to postpone World Beyond premiering was weird, because I did think that like they had it already done, and that there's not a reason that it shouldn't continue because we are all home. we could be watching it.
The only thing maybe I could think of is that they wanted to have the segue. Like maybe there's something in that finale that makes it dependent upon seeing the finale before. Like maybe there's a crossover or something like that. So you need to see the finale before you see the premiere. I don't know.
And that would make sense.
Yeah. And I think that weren't they going to actually do the finale and then go right into Beyond?
They were.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I think you got something there.
Well, and then the other part too is because like Fear has been postponed. They like basically they've had to stop production on Fear the Walking Dead, and then obviously next season of The Walking Dead, whatever had been being shot or worked on, that had to come to a halt. And so there was talk about, well, this kind of throws off the whole schedule of when things were going to be happening and premiering, and so that maybe they paused on The World Beyond so that when we do know what's going, when the world can recover, then it's like they're going to have to reschedule everything. And then maybe that was kind of part of holding it. But then the whole announcement, they didn't finish the finale of season 10. Yeah, that leading into some, the World Beyond almost directly, it's like, well, then that would make sense too, because you can't just, oh yeah, everybody just, just act like you understand what's going on, if they did just continue on. So yeah, again, you're right. This is unprecedented. It's like, this is a strange time for all of us. And, we're going to have to, when this is all comes through on the other end and we can get back to our lives, then the rest of everything will kick back in gear. And so maybe it'll be Christmas and we'll be watching Fear the Walking Dead.
Or 4 shows at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, no dates yet on when it will end. So the finale will be episode 15 on April 5th. So I'll definitely be here for that one, and hopefully here for next week. So
awesome.
Because everybody's waiting for me to come back in full.
Yes, we want you back.
I want to be back, but
I know. No, we get it. It's like these are, just the scheduling alone. It was like, okay, this. Anyways, we'll see you soon.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'll throw it to you then, Kyle, since you're kind of taken over. Why don't you tell people how to contact us?
All righty, I will. You can interact with us. We want to encourage you to follow us on Twitter, and you can find us at Walking Dead GSM. To submit your theories and feedback, most people post in our designated episode thread in our Facebook group, and you can find that at facebook.com/groups/WalkingDeadGSM. You can also email us at walkingdead@talkthroughmedia.com, and you can also go to our feedback form at our website, which is at talkthroughmedia.com/feedback. We really like getting voicemails from you all, so you can do that by calling 216-232-6146. And the deadline for the next episode is set for a regular day and time, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central, Tuesday, March 31st. And all of our episodes are on YouTube. Just search for Talk Through Media, and remember to subscribe and click the bell to get notified when we have new videos. The videos do go out first, so if you want to get it the latest and greatest, like right when it's done, that's the best place to do it. Otherwise, the podcast does show up a little bit not too long after that.
And to support us, like and review the Talk Through Media Facebook page at facebook.com/talkthroughmedia. And the best way you can support us is on our new Patreon. So you could just go to patreon.com/walkingdeadtalkthrough. We would like to thank our Patreon supporters, Steve Brown, Alex Baelish, and Lawrence Todd.
Hey, I'll give you guys another way that you can support us. Podchaser.com. That is a website that is now getting integrated into various podcast apps. You can set up an account on podchaser.com and give us a review there. And one of the interesting things about Podchaser is you can actually rate individual episodes. So I know you guys haven't been pushing that yet, so since I'm here, I will mention it.
Cool.
Yeah, because we've the Picard and the Discovery podcasts have gotten some ratings on there, but not for the Walking Dead talk through yet. So let's get some representation. It is on there. You can find us on there. So
cool. I'll post that in the Facebook group too.
Mm-hmm.
So remember to share our posts on Facebook and Twitter, and we post them, or just tell a friend. Word of mouth is the best way to get us all new listeners. And to subscribe to us in Apple Podcasts or podcast clients of your choice. While you're there, please give pretty much a rating or review. We love those.
And until he returns, as I'm talking with Brian on, until Brian returns.
Why don't I just do this one? Yeah. So tomorrow, as we're recording this, so Thursday, the 26th of March, is the finale of Picard. And if you don't listen to me and Ruthie on there, we've had some marathon episodes. The last one wasn't too long, but that was a bitch fest. It was like 2.5 hours of us kind of complaining about the episode. So androids shouldn't. No, never mind. I won't finish that. I won't finish that. That'd be a spoiler. But yeah, so we have 9 episodes done and 1 to go, and we have a Patreon going on there that's actually been going really strong. That's at patreon.com/Brian and Ruthie. And our next Patreon episode, we've got like 3 Patreon episodes, but our next one is going to be on the book, the Star Trek Picard, The Last Best Hope. And we believe we will be having a very special guest with us for that episode. So, as I mentioned, it was a novel. Who could the special guest be to discuss a novel? I can't say, but you can infer. So yeah, but yeah, the last episode is tomorrow, and then we'll have a marathon podcast, and we'll still have a few after that. We don't know about when Discovery's coming back. They haven't announced it yet. Sneak was pregnant, so it might be delayed because of that, or, little thing called the coronavirus. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to actually not podcasting for a little bit.
Yeah. Well, then, Mark, where can people listen to some of your work?
Well, you can find me on Panels to Pixels with Steve Brown on the Next Level Podcast Radio Network, and we cover comic books turned to shows or movies, just like The Walking Dead. So, we just wrapped up Daredevil Season 3, and this week we'll be covering Superman Red Sun, which was just turned into a cartoon. And from there, we'll probably just go into The Witcher.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't started watching that, but it's if you start covering that, then you're going to force me to.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing I'm home now.
Yeah, well, I have all time to watch stuff, unless work gets me going online to do phone support.
Well, alrighty, guys. Well, the next episode is Season 10, Episode 14, Look at the Flowers. I only can guess what that possibly could mean.
Well, who's going to be looking at the flowers?
Well, that's, yeah. Every time I read that title, I'm always just like, okay. I'm excited. It was written by Channing Powell and directed by Do Not Know. The description, and I got this from Google because I still couldn't, they don't post this on AMC before the episodes aired. And so I found that it's like heroes and villains reckon with the aftermath of the Hilltop Fire. Eugene takes a group on a journey to meet Stephanie with the hopes of befriending another civilization. Alrighty, well, I guess we finally get to meet this Stephanie. His little new love interest. All right, well, so until next time, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Mark.
And I'm Brian.
And this is The Walking Dead Talk Through. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good morning.
Depending on when you're listening to this.
Yeah.